glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on God.
If this isn't evident by now, there's something wrong. And it's disturbing to see the direction the country's going in. And we're not the only ones. Like, what would it be, 100 miles away? We go across the border and you can go to rock concerts and football games and drag racing or whatever your passion is.
And then over the pandemic, the last 2 years, I saw an erosion of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and our basic humanity and bullying and cohesion tactics.
Warning, censorship.
Kelly Lamb for Rebel News at the Saskatchewan Legislative Building in Regina. Today, a group of people from around the province have gathered in a silent rally. The rally is put on by the group Unified Grassroots, who you may remember from my recent report at a concert and protest in Saskatoon. They are here today to peacefully protest Saskatchewan's new wide-reaching proof of vaccination policy, which requires multiple establishments to ask for proof of vaccine or a negative test for entry. As well, many sports clubs are requiring teenagers to have vaccines and in many cases not accepting even a negative test. There is also the firing or threat of firing workers from occupations of all kinds, including healthcare workers, who were ironically previously hailed as heroes for the first 18 months of this pandemic. The fall sitting of the Legislative Assembly begins today at 2 p.m. So the protesters have gathered here at 12 p.m. to stand on the steps while the MLAs and Premier enter the building. This includes MLA Nadine Wilson, who made headlines in September when she resigned from the Sask Party caucus after, quote, misrepresenting her vaccination status. I'm here to find out what some of these citizens have to say and to have a chat with Ms. Wilson about her bold decision. I also hope to have the opportunity to ask Premier Scott Moe a few questions.
You know, as William Tyndall said, God open the eyes of the King. Would you open the eyes of our Premier? Would you open the eyes of our MLAs that they may see truth?
I'm here with Kelly. And what is bringing you out here today, Kelly? What would you like to discuss with fellow Saskatchewan residents, family, friends, etc.? What are your big concerns?
Well, I think it's probably some of the biggest concerns in the whole country is that they're coming after the kids now.
I was willing to be fired because I wanted to stand up against the discriminatory policy of the government of Saskatchewan, which said that I either had to show proof of full vaccination or do weekly tests on my own time. And
so we started a group called Sask Parents for Truth last year when we saw what was happening in the school system with the vaccine clinics coming into the school system. And we knew that we had to join together in unity to protect our kids.
If this isn't evident by now, there's something wrong. And it's disturbing to see the direction the country's going in. And we're not the only ones. Like, what would it be, 100 miles away? We go across the border and you can go to rock concerts and football games and drag racing or whatever your passion is. And there's no difference.
How are you doing today, Nadine? And what happened to make you change from going to the Saskatchewan caucus, resigning, and then ending up as an independent MLA in your riding?
Well, thank you, Kelly, for coming all the way down here for the throne speech, our first day back into the lion's den, as I'm going to say. I was for 14 years with the Saskatchewan Party caucus, and we did a lot of good things, infrastructure and hospitals and schools. We were a very good, caring government. And then over the pandemic, the last 2 years, I saw an erosion of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and our basic humanity and bullying and cohesion tactics. And that is in part why I decided to leave. I came to a crossroads and I couldn't any longer follow the direction of our health mandates.
And do you have any messages you'd like to pass on to your fellow Saskatchewan citizens, family, friends, etc.?
Yeah, so basically right now our main focus is unity. We need to end this divide that is happening right now. We live in a beautiful country, a beautiful province and city, and all we are seeing right now is divide. So we want to come together. We want to bring everybody together and stand together and protect people's freedom of choice, bodily autonomy. It should be a choice always.
we want the government to start accepting antibody testing for those of us who have already had COVID. So contact your officials in the city, the provincial government, and the federal government.
It makes no sense. This is about money and power. I don't know what the deal is, but it's got to stop.
With the great support of my family and my constituents, I had to make a decision to leave my political family. I mean, they're all great people. We went in this in 2007, a lot of them together with me, and we were births and deaths and weddings, and we spent a lot of time together. And so I know they're really good people. We just have to get back to our Canadian Charter of Human Rights.
And you said you have largely had support of both family and the residents and your constituents. Do you find that there's been also a lot of, has there been any insults, etc., or do you find that it's been mostly supportive?
Well, mostly supportive, but we are a very diverse Saskatchewan, and I've had some people quite upset with me that I wouldn't divulge my status, or as they say, misrepresentation. They don't know if I've got one vaccine, two, or none, and that's none of anyone's concern, as I don't want to know any of their medical history either. I believe in a Saskatchewan with freedoms and rights, and I want that for our future generations. I have 9 grandchildren, and I'm going to fight for them, as well as the future generations, for many people, lovely families and communities. I had a political analyst from Washington, D.C. call me, and she said, "Nadine, the last train has left." And I said, "What do you mean?" She says, "Well, you can't get out of there on an airplane. You can't go across the international border. You're stuck there. You've got to fight." And I agreed. But she further went on to say that Saskatchewan is on the human rights violation watch list. And that was something that took me aback, because the Saskatchewan I know was very gracious and diplomatic and democracy. And now most of us can't even go into a restaurant without showing our pass.
And lastly, if you have any advice or any thoughts or wisdom or anything you'd like to impart on your fellow MLAs and other members of government at various levels, what would you say to them today, Nadine?
We can rethink this. We can look at other countries' successes. We can look at alternative medicines. Let's unite the province again, instead of this divide, bullying, cohesive tactics, all sorts of different tactics to pull people apart. Let's unify. And I know our government has the heart to do this. We can do it together. And I would like to help them.
It seems Saskatchewan has no shortage of passionate yet gracious citizens who are saying this has gone too far. Many I spoke with said they feel misrepresented and isolated due to government policy. Many are so adamant that this is wrong, they are willing to lose jobs, comforts, friends, and even family respect just to hold this line. Will it make a difference? So far, Scott Moe isn't appearing to want to budge, nor does it look promising that any changes will occur anytime soon, especially given the current requirement of COVID enforcement team officers and detention center, among other extreme measures being undertaken. Despite rising vaccination rates that would be considered enviable by most regions in the world, a strict vaccine passport system, mask mandates, and other restrictions, Saskatchewan just can't get the number of cases down, which is being used as the excuse for such measures. We will see what the following weeks unfold as far as additional restrictions to the vaccinated, unvaccinated, and how far this province is willing to go to punish people for their personal medical decisions. Rebel will continue to amplify the voices of these regular people as they stand up to powers much larger than them. For Rebel News in Regina, Saskatchewan, I'm Kelly Lamb. If you feel led to be a part of the national movement against vaccine passports but don't know how to start, please consider helping us out in our legal battle by making a tax-deductible donation at fightvaccinepassports.com.